everyone. Welcome back. Sorry I'm not there with you guys, but I am there with you in spirit. But I hope you guys listen, pay attention. I know it's a video. I know it can be boring, but I hope you guys are paying attention and following along as we start our new chapter, Chapter 18, looking into still Asia, but the eastern part, the kind of northeastern part of the Middle East. Whenever you think of the Middle East, this is probably the part of the Middle East that you will think of. Let's look at a map. It is on page 435, and I'd like you to be following along with me. I'm going to be moving along quite a bit. We're first going to focus on Turkey, and I'm going to come back to Istanbul, but it's such a beautiful picture here, and it's a very modern picture. In fact, if you're not careful, it kind of looks very similar to San Francisco. But Istanbul, Turkey, very modern. In fact, we're going to see one of the reasons why it looks so modern. But I do want you to notice that on this map how important Turkey is. We're going to learn some terms that describe Turkey, but it's a focal point in geography, but also human history as well. So notice the primary cause of trouble in the Middle East, Eastern Mediterranean has been religion. We've seen in the Middle East it was oil. Here in Eastern Mediterranean, it's religion. I want you to keep those two tucked in your mind as we go through, all right? So first, let's focus on Turkey, and let's look at a map of what we're dealing with. Some important figures that we're going to talk about. We're going to mention all these countries, but I want you to notice that the Eastern Mediterranean area is very important because, one, it touches Africa down here. It's a part of Asia. That's very important. And then it also touches Europe. Now look what we have here. We have the city of Istanbul, and we're going to talk about what this peninsula is named. I don't know if you know it already, but it starts with a T. We're going to look at it later. But notice the capital, what was once the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, Istanbul. We're going to look at this city specifically, but notice what body of water separates this peninsula from Turkey. It is Bosphorus. Also, as we're talking about what else separates it, look down here. It's a very thin stretch of water that will separate Turkey from this peninsula, and that is called the Dardanelles. Now, we've also learned this by a different name. If you go back to world history, back with the Greco-Persian Wars, Greece against Persia, which was over here in Iran, a Persian leader, Xerxes, travels over because he wants to go defeat the Greeks because his dad, Darius, couldn't. So he goes across what was called the Hellespont. That's what the Persians called it. Today we call it the Dardanelles, but here he tried to cross at the Dardanelles, or the Hellespont, because it was the narrowest place. And this is my favorite story. When he gets here, he tries to build a bridge, and the storm comes through, knocks it down. So him, being the all-wise leader that he was, ordered that the water be whipped, because the water needs to learn its lesson for destroying the bridge. So his men whipped it, and they moved on. I guess the water obeyed. I don't know if that made him sleep at night or feel better about himself, but this is the Hellespont, or the Dardanelles, that story is famous for. Now, as we go through Turkey, I want you to notice how, in order to get to Europe from Asia or Africa to Europe, vice versa, it all goes through Turkey, and that's very important. We're going to learn a name that Turkey earns. You do want to know the capital as well. We will talk about all these countries, so you will want to know these capitals. All right, we won't have a capitals quiz specifically, but they will be on either quizzes or tests. So let's begin with Turkey. It's known as one nickname is known as the crossroads between Europe and Asia and the rest of the Middle East that we had talked about last chapter. So, nickname known as the crossroads because it plays such an important part in just the connecting between Asia, Africa, and Europe. So we're going to mention a lot about Turkey and its culture on how uh, does it associate with Asia? Does it associate with Europe? Well, kind of both. In fact, it's known as a choke point. So first we saw the crossroads. Also, choke point meaning a funnel or a place at which it has to go through. So um, Turkey is very important for that because one, you need to get through for trade, but also because of the culture that it develops. And from this culture, we see large ties with Asia, but also large ties with Europe as well. In fact, it's also called Asia Minor. In fact, we've seen this in the Bible because it's about the size of a small continent. Now, whenever you compare it to the countries around, it seems like a continent in and of itself, but it's roughly a little larger than the size of Texas. Now you may say, well, that's not pretty big. Well, another part that makes it seem like a continent is because of how much it has influenced history. And we're going to see one specific man that has done that. Now, as we look at the map, I do want to mention these couple characteristics. The Black Sea to the north, the Aegean Sea that separates Turkey from Greece, but also these two straits, Bosporus and the Dardanelles, that I'll mention here in a little bit. But you do want to know these two very important bodies of water, as well as the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea as they surround Turkey. Another physical characteristic that I want you to know is Mount Ararat. Now, this is a pretty picture, but I like the picture in your book better. I don't have the page number in front of me. But the picture in your book has two pictures of Mount Ararat. In fact, you see the lower Mount Ararat, and then you see the larger Mount Ararat, which we believe, as it says, the biblical Mount Ararat, we believe that Noah's Ark landed on Mount Ararat in Turkey. In fact, a lot of people have tried to hike the mountain. In fact, they have been successful. It's not as difficult as Mount Everest, but it is a difficult mountain. It's not extremely easy. Notice it's about 16,000 feet high. And most of Turkey is pretty well elevated, but Mount Ararat definitely stands as one of the highest peaks in Turkey. But as you can see, there's a bunch of snow on top, pretty harsh climates at the top of the mountain, but on the lower part, in the mainland, if you will, of Turkey, it's a pretty relatively temperate climate. Now, that's talking about the weather, but politically speaking and demographically speaking, it's not necessarily that temperate. In fact, it's gotten better, mainly because of the man that we're going to see on the next slide. But Turkey has, for the most part, been predominantly or mostly Muslim. Now, they're not as strict because of how close they are to Europe. In fact, they have a piece of land that touches Europe. So that's kept them pretty moderate. But there has been a push recently for a stronger Sharia law, or putting the Muslim law into practice, making it a state religion. But we're going to see a man that comes to power that takes away the religious, the state religion. And that's helped Turkey talk with major countries, specifically the Western European countries like Great Britain, France, Germany, and also the United States as well. It does join NATO in 1952, so it does have a pretty large voice, not a huge voice like the major 8 countries that we talked about before, but it's kind of got its foot in the door. In fact, because it joined NATO, it's actually tried to join the European Union as well. And you may say, but it's a part of Asia. How can it try and join the European Union? We're going to see that in a little bit. But before, Turkey was hardly even recognized by Europe. What really helped Turkey become recognized is this man, Kemal Atatürk. He's going to take control in 1923, which is between the two world wars, so not too long ago, not that far back. But what he's going to do, probably the biggest thing he's going to do quite a bit for Turkey, but the biggest thing to modernize Turkey is to take away the state religion, to make it a secular state, meaning it does not have a main religion. It's very hard to talk with other countries that do not believe in your religion. It's very easy to make friends that do believe in the same religion, but anyone that does not, it's not impossible to make friends or allies with them, but it is more difficult. So one thing he's done to modernize it, or he did to modernize it, was make Turkey a secular state. And that earns him the nickname the father of modern Turkey, modernizing Turkey. Now, that has not quite worked enough to get them into the EU, which you may think, why would Turkey, being in Asia, even come into the EU? Well, it goes back to that peninsula that is connected to Europe. Here, you see that peninsula called Thrace. Specifically, you see the city in Thrace called Istanbul, which we've learned in past history. But what makes Thrace so important? It's because it's connected to Europe. So a bunch of the culture, in fact, it has a lot of the strings within Turkey, having the major city of Istanbul, and being so close to Europe, it has a lot of ties with Europe. This is why they've tried to come into the European Union, but they have not been successful so far. They continue to try. But Thrace is the major foot in the door, if you will, on them coming into the European Union. Now, going back to the city that you see pictured here, and we saw before, Istanbul is going to be the largest city in Thrace. In fact, it's going to have the most influence in not only Thrace, but pretty much all of Turkey. And if you go back and study the history of Istanbul, it can be traced all the way back to the Roman Empire, which is a part of Europe. So going back to Constantine, he was the first guy that said, we're going to legalize Christianity. We're going to stop the persecution. Because remember his famous seeing the cross in the sky, and he wins the battle, so he says Christianity is legal. Well, he renames the capital after himself, very humble guy, but he's going to put a lot of focus on Istanbul as the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, and it has grown and stayed very large to this day. Not just large in size, but also in influence as well. And going back before him, one of the emperors actually decided to build this famous building for his wife. If anyone knows what it is, you can say it. It is a tomb. Now, it's not a tomb today, but it was built for a tomb. In fact, see these 4 towers, 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one is back here, were added on later whenever the Muslims took control of Istanbul, and they're going to add these minarets. If you remember what minarets are, those are the towers which the criers would cry out the call to prayer. So those will be added on later because of the Muslim controlling the Hagia Sophia. So now it is a mosque, but a very beautiful building. Architecturally speaking, it is a gorgeous building. Kind of interesting that it be a tomb, but it is one of the famous sites in Istanbul, or Turkey specifically. We've already mentioned Bosporus, the strait that separates Thrace from Asia Minor, as well as the Dardanelles. So Bosporus is more north, and the Dardanelles will be west, but I do want you to keep these 2 straight. And then that's going to finish up for Turkey specifically. We'll pick up here tomorrow. I do want you to know your homework. Your homework is on RenWeb, so it's going to be to read pages 435. Let me make sure I have the right pages here. It's going to be page 435 to page 440. You do want to do those. In the remaining time of class, I do want you to work on the section quizzes. This one that you see here, what strait separates Europe from Asia. I would like you to do this on a separate piece of paper, and then hang on to that for our next class. So again, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you guys